Health issues and COVID limited my fishing time this spring, and with limited hours, the 30 to 40 minute round trip to the river for stripers makes a lot more sense than the 2.5 hour round trip to my favorite bass lakes. Not to mention how good the topwater striper action was for the last 6 weeks. But with surgery and the ensuing layoff bearing down on me, I had to get out on the Sweetwater at least once this week. I headed to the first extended weedy bar, grabbed a rod with a carefully chosen spinner. Wait a minute, who am I kidding? I tied that spinnerbait on because there were two in the first place I looked for one, and the other one didn't have a skirt. Nevertheless, it caught a big pickerel and a rock bass before my first largemouth of 2021 hit it. With no more action on that bar, I started to head down my usual route, but saw two boats fishing in the prime area immediately ahead of me. So I put the Minn Kota on high and aimed it at Rich's rock. I can't call that rock fished without working it with the drop shot and the heavy jig, so I rigged those up while the Tarova handled the steering. The 1-ounce jig with 2 skirts and a 5-inch trailer caught one minuscule bass, by far my smallest of the day. The drop shot, on the other hand, caught 1 pickerel, 3 rainbow trout, a couple bass that may or may not have been short, and 1 okay-sized fish. Saw a lot of beds on the next shallow flood I traversed, but not a single bass using any of them. The size and close spacing of most of the beds suggested that they'd been built by rock bass. The next extended bar, really more of a sharp corner on a broad extended flat, gave up 1 bass to the drop shot. It occurred to me that other than 2 of the 3 trout I'd caught and a perch, every bite I'd had came from less than 10 feet of water. Time to adjust. The heavy jig rod went into the rod rack. The jerkbait lost its turn in the rotation to a small swim bait, and I set the grub rod up with a small nose-hooked soft jerkbait. Then I moved into 5 feet of water and went from there. The soft jerkbait paid off quickly and kept paying off. The spinnerbait held its own, but swimming that little swimfish high in the water column, mostly between the inside weed line and the bank, got the most bites, even if most of them were from perch, rock bass, and short largemouth. Nicely done. I'd planned to be back at the ramp by 2, but somehow managed to be casting that swim bait at 2:30 when good fortune and disaster struck 15 seconds apart. Hooked what was easily the biggest bass of the day. Got a decent, if very quick look at it as it went directly under my boat while beelining for the depths. I managed to work the rod around the bow without getting hung in the trolling motor, but the big girl dove directly into the thickest clump of milfoil I'd seen all day, and eventually it just pulled off. I put the electric motor on high and pointed it at the launch site. Despite losing the big fish on my last cast, it had been a great first freshwater trip of the year. 22 bass, a half dozen perch, and about the same number of rock bass, plus 3 pickerel, 3 trout, a sunfish, and only the second crappie I've ever caught at Lakeville. Thanks for watching.